Alwin Springer, longtime Porsche Motorsports boss, one of the founders of ANDIAL, and living legend of sports car racing.
Yep.
If you could describe this dinner with racers in one word, what would it be?
Perfect. One more time. And I tell you now, in one word.
No, it's fine.
Super, excellent. Let's do it again.
I'm not going to question you.
And now for Dinner with Racers, presented by
Continental Tire.
with your hosts, Ryan Eversley and Sean Heckman.
Placeholder radio sound. I'm a driver. I'm very angry. This is the sound of a driver on the radio during a race.
What do you think I should order?
Welcome to Dinner with Racers. I'm Ryan Eversley alongside my co-host and partner,
Sean Heckman.
and we are just wrapping up day 34 of Season 3's podcast road trip. Now, we covered 13,000 miles over 25 states, and we're going to bring you guys 29 episodes here on Season 3, the most we've ever done.
Yeah.
We drove down to Mission Viejo to meet up with a very infamous Porsche Motorsports figure, Alwin Springer.
Now, if you don't know the name Alwin Springer, he is a legend for people who like sports car racing or people who love Porsches. He grew up in Germany, but moved over to the U.S. When opportunity presented itself, and basically became part of the Porsche family by working under
Vasek Polak.
And Vasek Polak, again, for people who aren't necessarily Porsche files, is sort of the guy who really brought Porsche into the U.S. in a major way. Set up a ton of dealerships, set up the network, and Alvin worked directly under him, and then through a series of partnerships started his own sort of motorsport tuning company called ANDIAL, which he started with two other partners. We'll talk about that in the episode. And it's really an experience unlike any other sit down with Alwin Springer. Here's some of the things you're going to hear about.
The best street car he's ever driven.
He talks very strongly about how to properly shake somebody's hand.
The value of relationships.
And his opinions on balance of performance. So, again, we headed down to Mission Viejo on, again, these are real, National Bring Your Teddy Bear to Work Day.
That's not a thing.
And we actually purchased sandwiches and brought them over to his home in Mission Viejo, where we met with Alvin and his lovely wife, Yolanda.
Yeah, we had a nice meal outside in the sunlight on the back porch, in front of the pool. Lovely weather. Beautiful California afternoon.
I had my first cigar.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. That's
And
real.
what was the quote? You asked me a question about it.
Oh, is it supposed to make your mouth burn? Which apparently it isn't.
No.
So I was doing something wrong.
Yeah, I don't know how you messed that up.
I know nothing about cigars.
But you tried.
I did try,
You
and I
drank with Mario Andretti, and you tried to smoke cigars with Alwin Springer.
So this was the trip of debauchery
That's right.
by my standards.
I had the 6-inch tuna sandwich.
I had the chicken sandwich.
Of course you did.
And while we got to have a lovely meal on Alvin's back patio, we were driven there by none other than Mr. Dario Franchitti, who's here with us right now.
Are we there yet?
No, we're
no,
close.
are we
We'll
there
get
yet?
there when we get there.
But other than that, thanks to Acura for providing this lovely MDX. And, of course, we've got some tires on this car.
Continental tires?
Yeah, Continental Tires.
Okay.
But that's not good enough.
What do you want?
They want to hear
Who's
the
they?
thing. The demanding fans who ask for a lot of things for free. Do it.
Continental Tire.
Schnell!
A Continental Tire.
Schnell!
Continental Tire.
Okay. Let's play Alvin.
All right, we're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Nice.
Yeah, we go.
Nice equipment.
That's what she said.
Jeez. Can you get it up a little bit?
Yeah.
Just a
That's
little
what she said.
bit. Okay.
Is that better? Can you hear
It's
better? A little
A
better?
little bit better. A little bit back.
Back.
Okay.
You good
That's it.
there?
Okay.
Okay, good.
Have you ever seen equipment this advanced?
No.
That's what I
But
figured.
then on the other hand, I don't give a lot of interviews. See, that is something in the 80s or 90s. I decided against it because we had a lot of I don't want to say crooked reporters, but you know that this. I just didn't like it because they ask you a question, and the next thing what you know, I was talking about a club sandwich,
Right.
and they were talking about a stake. So they would always
Right.
turn the word, and I decided against it. That's
Sure.
it. When I took over Porsche Motorsport,
Right.
end of this. You never see me giving interviews or whatever. Very rarely.
So you're saying this is exclusive?
Very. That is, you go back and you find out how many interviews I gave. Then I would say it's a nice thing to see you guys.
Nice.
Cool.
Okay.
Well,
Very
likewise.
Cool. Yeah, about to say. And now we're sitting in your house. So Patrick was a big advocate to get you onto this, and
Patrick Long.
Patrick Long, excuse me. And why? You know what I mean? Like when you're like, okay, these two idiots, why would you have us in your backyard?
Oh, I tell you honestly, Patrick will, the background, how we got together, with the Red Bull thing.
Yeah.
He was young American drivers, and
Right.
at that time we were looking for that. And he fit completely the pictures, and beside, on a professional base, we became pretty good friends.
Right.
But then on the other hand, it's very hard not to become friends with him. He's a
Sure.
nice person,
Yeah.
beside a good driver. And he told me about you guys, and he said you should do that. So that was enough for me.
Huh.
Should
All
we
right.
should we out him as what we've
Yeah.
decided?
So here's the thing. So you have been in motorsport for 4 decades.
1966.
Okay, so 5
That's when Sean was
decades. You've
born.
been, yeah.
Oh, hey, old timer.
So 5 decades you've been in the sport. I have not been in the sport that long, but have been
Yeah.
here for a little while. And of all of the PR people that I have ever worked with, the hands down the best PR person I've ever known, Patrick Long.
Definitely, and we are very, very. Yeah, hold on. You have to remember, Patrick has a unique position. He is dedicated to Porsche,
Right.
but he doesn't work for a big company. So we
Right.
can take Bob Carlson.
Yeah.
Anybody remember?
Yeah,
him?
absolutely.
For me, he was one of the greatest.
Yeah.
Because he was a human being, he was honest, so everything what fits into a kind of a public relation guy or whatever, it fitted. And I really admired him on a personal base and a professional base.
Right.
But Patrick, you see, Patrick is Patrick.
Yeah.
So he can promote himself, at the same token promote the mark.
Yeah.
So it is a perfect combination, and he does a hell of a job.
Oh,
You are correct.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a story just from like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's very normal, particularly when you work with somebody who's affiliated with a manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
So in your case, obviously a clear affiliation with Porsche. A lot of times when you work with manufacturer PR representatives, they are very slow to deal with you because their job is to not get fired.
Yeah, exactly.
And I get that. I'm not critical of that. But so a lot of times if I want to, we'll use a Chevrolet as an example. If I want to get somebody from the Cadillac program or the Corvette program, if you try to go through their PR department, it can be a very, very slow process. So, and sometimes you just don't even hear back. But I was at the IMSA race at Laguna Seca 2 weeks ago, and Patrick, it's like 5 minutes before practice. Patrick is in his suit, helmet in hand, sees me, walks across the paddock, and says, "Oh, I saw Alvin. He's in. I'll email you on Monday. We'll get a time going. I'm thinking next Tuesday." And then he's like, "I gotta go drive the car now." It's like,
yeah, that's him.
yeah, best PR guy I've ever
Same
met.
for me. I said, where I knew you from a face.
Yeah.
I said, where are the guys? He said, okay, later. Okay, bye. And then when he wrote me the email,
Yeah.
and then I think you wrote it back, and I said, no problem, come here.
Yeah.
In my house. I like it better here because, we have a little bit more freedom.
Yeah.
We have time in a restaurant, it's noisy, people want to sit on a table.
Oh, this is fantastic. So,
And thanks for the sandwiches,
yeah,
guys.
oh, you're welcome. You are the cheapest date we've had on this road trip so far. So Mission Viejo.
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
76.
76. Would you like to wear a headset? Would you like to join us? You can.
Huh?
You can put that on if you'd like. You don't have to.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So you've been in this house since 1976? Oh wow. So the area's grown a lot from that.
I think when we got here was like 15,000,
Oh wow.
and now it's 80.
Yeah.
70.
Yeah.
But I worked for Vasek Polak up in Manhattan Beach,
Okay.
Hermosa Beach, and it was nice. But we couldn't afford a house or an apartment at the beach, so we lived inland. But it was flat, And then when we decided in '75 to go in our own business, and we want to move away from Hermosa Beach, not to get in a conflict with Polak. So we decided Costa Mesa, and then of course naturally, then we needed somewhere to move. And she found the area here with my mother when she was still alive, the two of them, and she said, I got a perfect area. You drive and you will like it. So I drove freeway down here and I saw the mountains in the back. And I didn't have any idea at that time, I tell you honestly, that mountains are that close to us.
Sure.
Sure, I've seen them when we drive to the races. You drive Riverside,
Right.
blah, blah, and you see the mountains. So, drove in, up the hill, over La Paz, down the hill, up the hill, and I told her, I said, that's it, we're going to buy here.
Right.
And it
This
was
is
the best move we ever could make.
Yeah. No, this is a
Don't
great
regret
area.
it at all.
Yeah.
It's a very nice, it's a clean city. It is, you are really, because of the expansion of the urban things, you are not downtown,
Right.
but it is not that bad anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so the airport is here. I love it.
Yeah.
I will not move from here, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So how was coming over here from Germany? Was it like a shocking change because the weather's so nice all the time?
No,
I mean-
no. Let me give you a short history. See, in 1965, I had my degrees in auto electric, auto mechanic, 2 degrees. And I wanted to see a little bit the world. I never want to immigrate. That was not in my direction at all.
Yeah.
I had a good job in Germany. And I want to come to the United States, see a little bit. But then the Vietnam War started just to creep up. And I said, nah, not me. So then I went to Toronto in the end of 65. Then I met her in 66, Yolande. Yeah, and then I started racing in 66. Then I went back to Germany in 67, did my master degrees in both things. Yeah, and then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So I went back and forth and back and forth. And then, in my opinion, you know, I call that the why. Because in the beginning, you can jump.
Yeah.
Right.
Germany, Canada, or whatever. And then there comes the time when you have to decide yes,
Sure.
no.
Right.
And in the meantime, I went to Daytona and I met guys here from California. And I said, California, that sounds pretty good. And I was there in 2 years before, in 1968 or 1967. We went from Canada to Mexico City with Ludwig Heimrath. Maybe that tells you something.
Yeah.
Old timer with a McLaren, not a Porsche.
Okay.
And on the way back, we came here over California, picked up some parts. And I'll tell you, it was April or May, I forgot now exactly. And people were running around like us here.
Yeah.
Shirts.
Short sleeves.
And I said, am I living on a different planet? We had winter time. It was still cold because in Canada, as you know, the winter goes into April, May.
Sure.
And then I got that offer, hey, why don't you come to California? It didn't take me long.
Yeah.
Right.
Back the Volkswagen and
Right.
came down here.
Mhm.
So I'm here since March 69.
Yeah.
Wow.
So was it for me a change? No, not really. I mean, that is, but I was then in racing at Polak, so I always stayed in racing.
Yeah.
I call myself, like a hybrid.
Sure.
A hybrid
Sure.
between the Germans
Mhm.
and Americans, because I understand both philosophies.
Right.
And what I tell the Germans when they come over here, I always say, guys, do me a favor. When we sit on a table or we're in a room, we all look alike. Believe me, cannot separate between a German and an American.
Yeah.
Right.
But I said, when it comes to thinking, it's the left side and the right side.
Sure.
And we have to meet somewhere in the middle. So do not try to pull the values from you on the Americans. It won't work.
Right. Right.
So, no, but it was an advice. And usually if somebody didn't like it, he found out the hard way. Because that's the way it is. It's the same if you would go to Germany or somewhere else. You have to kind of adapt to the country.
Well, and not to sort of skip around, but your reputation is of somebody who really understands sort of the politics of motorsport.
Mhm.
And would you say that's part of it, that you sort of come from kind of both philosophies, that you know how to balance the two?
I think what it takes, I don't think it has anything to do if you're German or an American. Doesn't matter. It's how you are in daily life, how your personal standpoints are, and it takes a while until you are accepted and
Right.
respected.
Right.
And once you achieve that, then I think it becomes much, much easier to negotiate something, to discuss something with people, because when they trust you, and trust in parentheses, they open up, and at least they give you 40% of what they say, or 50%. They say to the guy, okay, if they don't trust you and don't know you, and that's personally for me also, you go immediately,
Yeah,
what is the
right.
guy trying
Yeah,
to say?
Right.
Right.
So What I'm saying is, and I'm a strong believer in that is in integrity is very important. And to a certain degree, honesty, and I will explain you that later. Then comes reputation and respect. But how do you get respect? And that is another thing what I tell the guys when they come over here. Not with your title.
Yeah.
You earn it.
Yeah.
And how do you earn it? Being open, being honest, and. So come back to honesty. What is honesty? If you ask me a question, okay, you can ask now, what is the next Porsche looking and when is it coming?
Sure.
Even if I know it, I can't tell you that. Because there are certain things, it's just an example. Then I will say, I cannot answer that question. But I will not lie. And that is my reputation.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? That's the
absolutely.
difference between a lot of people, they go blah, blah, blah,
Right,
blah,
right.
and then I go, yeah, it's so clear.
Yeah.
And when it comes to negotiation with people, like I said, if I go in a meeting and I say something, I have to respect. Now, do I convince them? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sure. But I'm very proud on again my reputation. And the moment you want to scratch on that, I get nasty because I've worked too hard for it.
Right. Yeah. I don't know that you know the reputation you have towards like young drivers in America, but it's very intimidating.
Yeah, but that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure you know.
No, of course.
I'm guessing you like that.
Well, earlier he said to me when you were out here setting up, he's like, "Do you know what I do?" And I thought, "Yeah, yeah, I'm very well aware, as anybody in my position should be." You're kind of a celebrity, even though you probably don't realize it.
No.
Because right, you're like, whatever. But in the sports car racing world, you're up there along the same, namesake of like a Penske or
that Penske is my hero.
Okay.
I tell you, if I one guy in racing, that's Penske.
Yeah.
For me, he is the greatest guy. He's honest, again, to a certain thing. And when you need him, he's always there, lends me an ear, because I know him from the early 70s with the 917s. And it never changed. So, yes, him, Penske, no, I'm not on the same level like him. No, I'm telling you. I look up to him.
Sure,
and I mean that. I mean it with deep respect.
Yeah, well, for us, being fans as well as in the sport, when we got like the word that Alwin's going to sit down for a meal with us, we thought, oh, really?
Yeah.
Like, is that really
Why?
happening? And we know our listeners are yes,
absolutely,
yes,
yeah.
and our listeners are good. And in fact, we're concerned that we're going to get something wrong with like a Vasek Polak history, and then all the fans that listen to this are going to come after us because it's a very, very sacred history with motorsport.
You ask so far. I like the questions.
Yeah.
Or it's not so much questions but statements.
Yeah.
And it's something completely different, and I'm glad that we're doing that.
Yeah.
Because, calling about corner 7 and gear 6, give me a break.
Oh, that's not
You know
us,
what I
yeah.
mean? But it's not. But talking about personalities and, how we do that and what it is, I like that.
Yeah.
And young drivers. Let me come to young drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
During the 962 days, I always called the drivers, they were not young, but even the old ones, Ludwig, all the guys, I called them spacers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've heard this.
You heard it?
Yes.
Yes. Spacers between the steering wheel and the seat.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
replaceable.
Yep. Yep.
Because at that time, we were just digging into the EPROMs. You know what EPROMs are, no?
No.
EPROMs is the ECU. You know what that is?
okay,
Electronic
yes.
Control Unit.
Yes. Yeah.
And the EPROM is the brain of the ECU.
Right.
And we were just starting to control the ECU. Okay, with timing and lambda
Right.
and all that little stuff what we had, mixture.
Yeah.
And I always told the driver, I said, look, man, don't screw or with me because I'm going to get you faster than you can get, because I change something and you look like an old man.
Right.
So I said, be nice. Be very, very nice. But on another note, and I'll come back to young drivers. So at Daytona, AJ Foyt. So Foyt drives a 962, comes in, opens the door. He goes, blah, 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 with his helmet, sitting there. I go, come on, what did he want?
Right.
So finishes, goes in a trailer. I go in there. He said, by the way, in his accent, he said, I want to tell you something, but you didn't understand one word. I said, no, he said, when you said something, I didn't understand one word. I said, don't feel bad. I didn't understand you either. And honestly, that little episode, he moved the whole thing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
He invited us later to Indy, you know what I mean? So that's that little, when you say respect over this, a little bit humor. You have to have humor.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I do. I know when to laugh and when to make a joke,
Yeah.
and I know when it is serious. So then I'll give you another one. You know Dieter Quester?
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
962 Daytona. So he comes over, drives 2 laps or what, but totally off the pace, opens up the door. The engine man, please. I said, yeah, what is it? But in German. He goes, yeah, if I come in the horseshoe and it goes pop, 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 and it cuts out and it does. So I looked at him. I said, my friend, you're about 12 seconds off the pace. When you get a little bit faster, talk to me. Close the door. so then later on, he went to the other guys and he said, who is that guy? So that's how I got my reputation.
Yeah, no, it stands true.
So
Yeah.
that was in
I
the
like
1962, in the 80s. So and then in the 90s, I took over Porsche Motorsport after Al passed away or had the accident. So what we would do in Germany, and we still have that, is we have a program where we get young drivers.
Yeah.
They go through school, they go through how to talk on TV,
Yes.
and so they would teach them manners and being nice guys and being good race car drivers, and then I would get them. Mike Rockefeller, like Lucas Luhr, I
Yeah.
mean, all of them. So they would come over here. Timo Bernhard,
Yep.
they would come over here. I would get him in the truck, in our old truck. I don't know if you remember
Yes,
that.
I remember that, yeah.
The old truck. Get him in there. I said, come on, sit down. I said, number one, you learn now what it is being nice in life. When we start today or tomorrow, you learn what real life is all about. And I'll teach you.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And then they had to follow. Like one time I forgot now who it was. I think it was Timo Bernhard and 2 guys came, Mark Lieb or what. I really don't remember anymore. But the guys came in the truck as a tandem. And I told them, I said, look guys, we drive together, but you drive in 2 different cars. Don't you ever drive together or hit each other. Park the car. Don't come in the pit anymore and get a ticket to Germany.
Right.
Otherwise I will kill you. So, yeah, logo. So and they never did. So I had strong words, and today from a young race car driver, I expect the same thing. Respect. Respect is very important, and don't get cocky, because you fall faster than you are rising.
Yeah.
Because there are so many good guys out there. So if you are very good, then you can kind of afford to be a little bit, quiet. But otherwise, let's say in plain English, I don't take from nobody,
Yeah.
especially not from young ones.
Right. Right.
That's
Right.
the reputation.
But otherwise, when you see me at the racetrack for the last 10 years or what, I'm very much in the background. You don't see me in the foreground. You ever see me in the foreground?
I'm gonna.
we do.
Yeah, but I'm gonna call that out and say absolutely don't agree with that.
don't?
I don't agree whatsoever. So we have
getting into it?
Yeah, let's go to
Yeah,
the guest question.
okay.
Our last guest was Jeremy Shaw, who did nothing but say nicest guy
And
about
apparently
you.
lives just down the street.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like you guys are neighbors.
yeah.
But
Good guy. We know each other for a long time.
yeah, he was just telling us how nice you were, and like all we know is like the intimidating Alwin Springer. We're like,
Yes.
really?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but Jeremy's question.
Yeah, he but same question that we kind of already had. But direct quote, I thought you retired from this job years ago, but every time I go to an IMSA event, there you are. Why? What is it that keeps you coming back?
That's a good question. Sometimes I ask myself, but let me tell you how that worked. It's in 2003, I was supposed to extend my contract. And I kind of, like at that time, the corporate world was becoming bigger and bigger, and the corporation, the controllers, and here and there.
For
And I
Porsche.
could see that in my freedom, I would have been curtailed. And following the complete rules, because I have to explain that a little bit further, and following the complete company rules would take too much time away from my side, because I was at that time, we were a small company, it was not as big. So I traveled a lot, I had a family, I worked my ass off. And then I saw the shit coming, you know,
And you're
more,
talking
more.
Specific to Porsche Motorsport?
Porsche
North
Motorsport.
America.
Yeah, clear, Porsche Motorsport.
Yeah.
Because ANDIAL stopped in 19.
Right.
Yeah, I can
But-
explain you that too,
Yeah,
you know, transition
a
there.
lot of fans may not realize Porsche Motorsport and Porsche out in Atlanta
Yeah,
are
but
kind
then
of two
maybe
separate
we should.
companies.
Can you edit the
Oh
whole
yeah,
thing?
absolutely. We
Then,
edit the hell out of
go
it, yeah.
back and ask me and bring that question later. Ask me how the transition, what happened there between ANDIAL and Porsche Motorsport, because a lot of people didn't understand that and
Oh,
still
sure.
don't know exactly
Right.
what happened there.
Right.
Alwin Springer in American motorsport would have been not where I am today without ANDIAL. And
Right.
what is ANDIAL? ANDIAL is a company we started in 1975, and I have to explain that a little bit to you because it is important. And I want to make a point that stays 100% in there.
Oh.
It was started. It was started with Arnold Wagner.
Yeah.
Who was the parts guy. Dieter Insenhofer, who was like me, a technician, and myself.
And this is at Vasek Polak?
We all worked at Vasek
Okay.
Polak, but we quit in 75.
Yeah.
So and then we were sitting in a room, and we said, so what are we going to call the company? So then it started, Porsche Service West and blah blah. And we said, nah, you cannot do that because they will sue our ass sooner or later.
Right.
So then we came with ANDIAL, you know, AR. Okay.
That was
had
my
a question
question
about
is
this.
why
Yeah,
not
pass
ANDIAL?
up.
Okay.
So what should ANDIAL? And we said ANDIAL. Doesn't make sense. That sounds in English. It sounds good in German. It doesn't sound good in English.
Right.
And then we said, okay, Arnold, we're gonna cut you for AN.
Yeah.
ANDIAL, because it flows.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how that name came.
Yeah.
So what did it mean? Nothing. But you know what the important part was at that time? Top of the yellow pages.
Yeah.
A. That's all. So
Can you explain what the yellow pages are for the kids that are going to
yeah,
listen
the
to
yellow
this?
pages is today. Yeah, exactly. It looked like a phone book, but then I explained to the kids also what is a phone book.
Right.
We used to have pages with all the advertising from businesses, and you know, like you guys know it. And hopefully for the kids who listen, go on Google and whatever it is,
Yeah.
you'll find out. So and then we started that, and it was a very, very good thing. We did only Porsches, but we did racing and the street. And in racing, we concentrated on engines, racing, and that's all. And we were very successful. I don't want to go in all the details, but in 1988, when Al died. So we waited 1 year in Porsche. You know, we kind of looked at each other and we said we shouldn't. In 1989, we looked at each other and we said, I saw Porsche Motorsport going down the hill. They saw it also, but at the time, ANDIAL was the biggest independent Porsche in the United States.
Right.
So Porsche Cars North America hated our guts.
Huh.
So how do you combine now? So they didn't know how to approach us. But then I had a very good connection over the years in Weissach. So and then they came finally and they said, listen, you have to do faster motorsport. And I said, how? So and then we agreed in the beginning. That's a good story. So in the beginning, as a consultant, because there was nobody anymore. The Porsche Motorsport was dormant. So as a consultant, and then as soon as Porsche Cars North America heard for the van Reno, they flipped out. How can you take the blah, 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 blah? I said, the guys. So I went to Porsche Cars North America, and the guys was Fred Schwab.
Yep.
So I came in his office, and it was a little bit like North Pole. A little bit cold.
Right. Okay.
And then he finally, you know, after 15 minutes or what, nonchalant, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he said, okay, here's your contract. I looked at my contract. I tell you that, I think 50 pages of it.
Yeah.
I opened it up and it goes, where ass, where off, and where. I said, well, I have no idea, I'm not a lawyer. So I took that thing, brought it here to my lawyer, he looked at it, and he said, if you sign that, you're a slave. I said, why? He said, everything in there, okay. So I called a guy in Germany, Helmut Flegel. Does that mean something to you?
No.
He used to be the Wallisers of the world, at that time.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the what?
The Walliser, Frank Walliser,
Okay.
they were big racing.
Yeah,
cars.
right.
So I called him up and I said, he said, send me that thing. So I sent it to him. And then it went on, I don't know, they announced in December of 89 that I'm going to take the job. You know when I had the final contract done? May.
Ah, good.
You know how long it was? 6 pages.
Nice.
So that, of course, made Porsche Cars North America mad.
Yeah.
But you know, they kind of Weissach, the racing arm is Weissach, and it's not Porsche Cars North America. So that's what it always made it a little bit, not sweeter, but easier to operate.
Yeah.
Right.
So then came the time, every year, you know, like, because what I had is I took the ANDIAL thing, and we made all the racing engine for the teams at ANDIAL. But it was, and I was the only consultant. I wasn't employed by Porsche. I was still at ANDIAL. So I was running Porsche Motorsport. And then every year they came and they said, okay, you got to sell your interest in ANDIAL and come over to Porsche Motorsport. And I said, why should I? Give me a good reason. They never had a reason. And then finally, you know, after a couple of years, I said, look, I'll make you a deal. 1995, we have 20 years of ANDIAL. Then let's talk about it, because that is for me a benchmark. Let's see what we're going to do. It took us 1996, 1 year, to negotiate a price. Because what we did is, we took the complete racing department. Is that okay?
It's okay. We can deal with it.
Because otherwise we can go inside,
Fine,
because
it's
I can
fine.
yet.
Yeah, once we isolate.
We took the complete racing department, including parts department, people, machinery, everything. And I relinquished my shares in ANDIAL, gave it to Dieter and Arnold, and the only thing what I took was the racing department, the building, not the building as in real estate, but whatever was in the building.
Gotcha.
We
Right.
had 2 buildings. And that I sold to Porsche, because they had to give me some.
Right.
And that what took a year. But then actually on the 1st of 97, I took over as the president of Porsche Motorsport
Right.
and got out of ANDIAL. So hopefully that makes a little bit more
Yeah.
sense
Right.
when I say ANDIAL or Porsche Motorsport.
Yeah.
So for an outsider, you didn't know, because the transition from
Okay.
ANDIAL to Porsche Motorsport was like that.
Right.
Open door, next day you go in and you say, okay, it's Porsche Motorsport.
Right. It was
So
all the
that
same people.
That was
and the
very
same-
seamless.
Right.
So I hope that answers the
It does.
question a
Well,
little bit.
So it doesn't. Yeah, it answers part one of just sort of the transition of ANDIAL to Porsche Motorsport North America. But so from 1997 to 2004, you're the guy. You're running the deal. You're in charge.
That's correct.
But then you retire, and
No,
yet,
from 1990. See, you have to be careful now. See, that's
Right,
that's
okay,
that's
I
where it gets
understand.
confusing.
Yeah, sure.
From 1997, I was an employee for Porsche.
Copy. Okay.
That's a different.
Right.
Before I was consultant.
But
So I love the consultant work.
but in 2004, you retire,
Yeah.
and yet we're going to see you this weekend in Monterey.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Okay, I can explain you exactly. In 2003, like I started before, you know, I was tired of it and I didn't want to do it anymore. And I found Uwe Brettel, if you remember him.
Yeah.
I found him. He was running the Cup, Super Cup over there. We talked to his wife, and we came to the conclusion that's the right candidate for over here. So he came here. We stayed for 4 months together. So when I relinquished my job in end of 1st of February 2004, again it was flawless. One day to the next one, nobody really knew what happened. And then I went to Germany and talked to the boss. And it was kind of, you know, like it was kind of, yeah, okay, so do you really want to quit? I said, wait a minute, Uwe Brettel is there. So and then we kind of talked, and and then he said, listen, help a little bit with Uwe, help a little bit, you know, with whatever is necessary. And I said, yeah, sure. And we came there to the conclusion, because I always liked rules and regulation, but the BOP at that time, you know, was here. So what, always liked it, but I never had time. I never really put my nose in it. So and then I took that job over, but as a consultant, and no contract. I didn't want to have a contract anymore, because a contract would bind me. Because it's twofolded. Number one, the Porsche people have to hold their sale on you, and at the same token, you know, like what happened if I don't like what the Porsche guy is doing, then, you know, I have to stick out my contract, No. I wanted to be independent. That was for me very important, and that is as of today. Ne? They tried it again a couple of times. No contract. I do not work with a contract. So what do I do now? Let's say that I watch out. First of all, rules and regulations, and that is something what grew from here. What I said before, to very, very high. BOP became really a master. Not a master. The master is bullshit. It's a factor. You can have the best car and you have a bad BOP.
Yeah.
There's nothing what you can do.
Exactly.
So it is more important than, I don't know, than technology.
Development.
Because the development,
Yeah.
perfect word.
Yeah.
And I call BOP socialized motorsport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I call it bullshit. I respect because of the cars. What we have these days, the variety of the cars in engine size and turbo and non-turbo and small and big, I can see that we need a certain equalizer.
Mm-hmm.
But where that thing started, let's say with 4 parameters, 3 parameters, we have now 10 or 15. It's getting out of line. We don't really have hard racing anymore. We're fighting that now for, I don't know, minimum 10 years, especially in Daytona. You know, the Roar or the testing before. Nobody. The Roar, you can give it to yourself because nobody goes out there and shows anything because they're afraid that for the race they change the BOP again. So what are you doing? That is for me a waste of talent, a waste of money, a waste of resources.
Yeah.
For what? So I'm not an advocate of BOP, and I've made my opinion well known
Yeah.
to a lot of people. But try to change it.
Yeah.
Try to change it.
Yeah.
Now we have the SRO makes the rules, we have the ACO, we have the FIA, we have IMSA, we have World Challenge. I mean, it is, and it's so intertwined. So why am I still going to the races? Number one, I still like it. Number two, what I not dream of, but what I analyze usually fits. Because see, not only do I know electronic and here and there and there, so the broad spectrum is wide, and I know who to ask if I don't know. And therefore I have a pretty good idea what it is or what we should ask for, because the IMSA analysis, have you seen that?
Yeah.
It's pretty elaborate.
Yeah.
But that is what I'm saying, you know, that gets more and more and more. And what do we want to have? Slot car racing?
Right.
No, I mean that honestly.
Yeah.
Where do we stop? Because apparently right now they're not. And it's not that IMSA wants it, but they kind of are forced into an area where they're trying very, very hard, and in my opinion fair, on a fair base, to make it equal, or at least make it close to equal.
Right.
But it's so difficult.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, if I see, let's say I see a landmine rolling along, or that thing, so then I'll tell the Porsche guys, hey guys, jump a little bit to the right or to the left.
Okay.
Right.
So, and that's, so you ask, the other thing, I go to the teams, I talk to the teams, and usually, you know, like, you get a pretty good idea, where's the problem, that I do that too. Yeah.
So being quote unquote retired is basically just sort of a freedom for you that you can do the stuff you want to do and not the stuff you don't.
Exactly, my
Okay.
friend.
I'm retired right now.
You see that? See what I say?
Right.
What I say very clearly.
Yeah.
There's one person in life who sometimes can tell me what to do. You know who that is?
I'm guessing
My
it's her.
wife.
Yeah.
And
Or
the
us.
rest of them, let's work together. If it makes sense,
Right.
I will do it. If it doesn't make sense, I will not do it. And that is, people know that.
Now, when he retired, did you think that was it, and you could finally like have a weekend?
Uh,
No, you
No.
knew. Yeah,
no,
yeah,
that
yeah.
is not true. No. What our plan was, don't say that. What our plan was, no. What our plan was, we wanted to get a big motorhome
Okay.
and travel the United States
Yeah.
and Canada.
Well, you could start a podcast and do that.
Yeah, but you know what? We looked at it. That was before the guys in Germany asked me to stay on, you know, consult. But then we looked at the motorhome and we said, motorhome. So we have a nice motorhome. We go on a campground.
Okay.
And then what?
Sit there.
You see, now
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need another car behind.
Right.
And when we all
So
looked
now
at
the
it, we
whole
said,
thing,
you
yeah.
know what, an hotel is actually good.
Yeah.
So we didn't do that. So yeah, I still like to do it. It's But, like I said, I don't have to write a lot of reports, and I don't have to write a lot of controlling bullshit.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong. When you run a company in today's world, you need controlling, you need budgets, you need that all. But when you work for a big company, they tend to oversee that a small company doesn't have the human resources what they have.
Right.
So but you have to do the same thing. How are you going to do that? So that is something what I resented. I get up in the morning. Before, at 6 o'clock, telephone would ring because of the 9-hour time difference. Okay. Now, if I don't want to answer the phone, guess what? I don't answer. Then I look at my emails. And I can say, important, next, bother me.
Right.
See, that's, you're absolutely good. That's the freedom what I cherish.
Yeah. And yet,
I picked my races where I'm going to go. Nobody tells me if I say that I'm going to come on Wednesday or I'm come on Friday. And the other thing is at the racetrack. So before, 6 o'clock up, 7 o'clock at the racetrack. Now, you know what the difference is if I'm there at 7 or 8 o'clock? 1 hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So sometimes, if I see there's practice at 10 o'clock, if there's practice at 8 o'clock, again, if I'm there or not there, but you think something changes?
right.
Yeah, right.
So therefore, I cherish my mornings.
I definitely understand this.
It's same thing what and like I said, I did that in the 80s. Same thing in the 80s, I decided against another thing. Going to the victory circle when we win. I didn't do that anymore for a simple reason. Is Eric Blas, you know him, okay? And our guys, they work their ass off. They deserve to go in a winner's circle, not me. You know what I did? I went to the guy who finished third or second. And by the time I was finished with them, the guys came back, then I went to the guys who won the race. That is the order, fifths or whatever, always got, and you get respect. Because that is human nature. And that is something for me came naturally. So you asked me before, do you learn it? I don't think you learn it. You have to have it in you. So yeah, I'm a hard son of a bitch, but at the same token, I'm fair. That I promise you can ask anybody.
Yeah.
And straightforward.
Oh, we know that.
That's straightforward.
We know this, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
Oh yeah, definitely. You get it from me.
Oh,
I'm definitely not politically correct.
Yeah, you wouldn't remember this. The very first time we met, like 10 years ago, it's Alwin Springer, and we get introduced, and we shake hands, and you were like, nope, do that again, because
That's
I did
right.
not shake your hand hard enough.
Not only that.
Yeah.
Or, pass off, or watch it, shake my hand.
All right.
Look, somebody
you look
else,
the other way.
then I go like, hey.
But you got my attention.
I still do that today.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So if somebody gives you a hint, like
a
like
fish hand.
Yeah, okay, very good.
I always remember
Nothing
that.
changed today.
Yeah.
I had a kid when I was 14 or whatever,
Yeah.
and he went like that. And like that, I said, come here. I said, you want to learn something in life? Yeah. I said, first of all, look at me when you say hi. And second of all, you have to shake hands. Don't go too hard. But, okay. So next day I saw him. Guess what?
Did it right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I thought when he parked up that he remembered you.
He's like,
oh,
that's
you're the
his
guy
move.
with the terrible handshake.
Yeah. That's just your move. The other thing I remember was you drove in. This was like at a Porsche Motorsport party, end of year kind of thing, and you were driving a Lexus, and you said it was the best car you'd ever driven.
You know what is in the garage?
It's still here. It's a Lexus.
Yeah.
So they always go. No, the best part is, I have to tell you that. So we go in Daytona. I don't do that often either, to the Porsche Corral.
Yeah.
Well, I don't go there too often. But in Daytona, Jens convinced me 2 years ago. I came in there, and then by the end, when everything is said and done, then the public or the people can ask questions. And I on the left side, they started on him, what car are you driving? Oh, then they go 911 turbo, blah, 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 blah. And I knew him. So I wanted to leave, and Jens said, you stay. I can't leave,
Right, he knows
So
what's
they
coming.
said, okay, what do you drive? I said, a Lexus. What? Boo! So, and then I bought a 356. I have a 356, but not because of that. So, but I give you a better one. You know, Hutz? Hutz used to be the board member of development. We were private eating or what, so he came too. He's same thing. What are you driving? I said, Lexus. What? I said, Lexus. Do you have a second car? I said, yeah. He said, what is it? Land Cruiser. I said, hey guys, when any of the cars break, I would love to buy a diesel Cayenne, but it becomes more and more difficult. But the Land Cruisers, you can't beat them.
Right. Yeah.
You know my Land Cruiser, you know what I do with it? I take the running boards off. Yeah. I have a set of wheels with off-road tires.
Okay.
And then go to the bar, go in Death Valley. But I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we drove not on the race, but we drove on the racetrack and street to La Paz, Ensenada, La Paz.
You did the whole Baja run.
The whole bar run. Yeah. Here was my car. Then I come home, wash it, put the stuff on, and my wife drives. So, explain to me why I should do that.
Right.
So Andre Oisthofen, you know him?
No.
He's the marketing chief at
boy.
Porsche North America.
Yeah.
Just asked me, are you still driving your Lexus? I said, yeah. Well, that's me.
All right.
Nice. All right. So we all know your story, you know, starting with Vasek Polak and of course ANDIAL, but I don't really know much about you prior to that. Like, did you grow up a racing fan? I mean, like being born in Germany at the time you were born, it was a tough time, I assume. And
Nothing.
Yeah.
What I did, I grew up in Essen. It's an industrial town, in the kind of the northern part of Germany, a mid-northern part. And racing. I had a friend who was involved in racing, he still is, and I always say, Nürburgring, 200,000 people, what am I going to do there? No. So in Germany, I was not interested in racing at all. It came in Canada. Like I said, my uncle had a big company. We had about 300 trucks. Delivery trucks, not really big delivery trucks, and about 40 or 50 Volkswagen buses. So my life was kind of already in the right direction. And like I said, I learned, I had a degrees in auto electric and auto mechanics. So that was 6 years of learning. Because in Germany it's different. Here you say you're an auto mechanic and you are. Over there you have to have an apprenticeship and you have to do that all.
Yeah.
And then in 66 when I came, or 65, in 66, the guy had a nice Spider. That's what I showed you there, Rudi Bartling. You don't know him, but... And he said, I looked at it and he said, you want to help me in the evening? I said, yeah. I said, what do? Yeah, we drive in Montreal and in Watkins Glen and in Ohio. And I said, that's exactly what I want. Because I want to see the country. That's why I came over here.
Okay.
And that's how I got into racing.
Interesting.
Honestly. Then I made out of my hobby, I made a job. So what are you complaining about?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
All right.
So you've gotten to work with drivers from, just name them, anybody you want in the history of the sports car racing world. It seemed like in the 80s and early 90s, the age difference, you'd see like a Hans Stuck or a Bob Wallach were still getting factory rides, and they were well into their late 40s and early 50s, and now that doesn't seem to happen nearly as much. But that would have been probably your age group at the time, give or take a little bit?
Yeah.
So would you have like more of a social relationship with those guys back then? You mentioned you were good friends with Bob Wallach earlier.
I can tell you, we had a social relationship. I can tell you that Klaus Ludwig, Bob Wallach, very close.
Yeah.
Stucky.
Yeah.
Sarel Vandermerwe.
Yeah.
It's all these guys. Huh? Terry Boots.
Yeah.
Terry Boots on top of the list also. So yes. And the funny part is, you see, when I see them, in today's world, it's always, we go to their birthdays or invite us or what. So we always keep contact.
Yeah.
And only guys do that when you like each other.
Sure, yeah.
So yes, absolutely. For me, that was very important because what is in life? If you're not an asshole, okay, and you can drive a race car, and I'm just talking about race car drivers.
Sure.
So if you get along on a private base, then it makes it so much easier
Right.
to communicate or say something or be honest or say what it really is than if you go, "Ugh." But quite frankly, I cannot recall one driver where I say he was an asshole. Michael and Mario Andretti, the Answer brothers. I mean, huh? Yeah, Jim Busby. I mean, Jim Busby, by the way, we still are good friends.
Yeah.
So, I'm a strong believer in personal contacts and personal relationships.
Can you tell us that Bob Wallach story you told us earlier?
Oh, yeah, Polak. Yeah, that's a good one. So Polak actually was a guy who was very reserved, very reserved. And he would get in a car and he would do and always kind of, I call him Moofy. So, but he did his job, so I respected that. And then, in the morning, when I came in, I would say, "Good morning, Bob." But never, nothing. So that went on for 2 months, 3 months, and then I said, "Yeah, maybe asshole." And then one day, he came by and he said, "Good morning." And I said, "Okay, screw you." And I'm telling you, I didn't walk 5 steps on my shoulder. "I said good morning to you." I said, "You asshole." I said, "I've been saying that for 3 months, and how many times have you told me good morning?" "Really?" I said, "Yeah." And from then on, we became that was the beginning of a very, very close relationship.
Yeah.
And what I call him is like a brazel nut. The hard shell.
Okay.
It takes a drill to get in there, but once you're in there, totally soft.
Yeah.
Nice guy. And very, very soft. But that was so typical. Bob Polak. Yeah. my
Right.
friend.
Well, so up in your office, there's a photo of Bob Wallach that he gave you, and so tell us that story for those who can't go to your
The
office.
photo.
Yeah, or the giving of the photo, I should say.
The beginning of the photo,
The giving.
I don't know exactly. You can read it if you want to. It's something. He came in a truck, like what everybody does. See,
Right.
in my reign, when I ran Porsche Motorsport, all drivers, factory drivers for sure, came in a truck when they arrived, said hi, how are you, blah blah blah, said hi to the crew,
Right.
and then after the race they would come again, had a glass of beer, I had my cigar, like it was just what I said before, family. That is all gone today, but with the new guy, I think we're gonna get that back again.
Sure.
So what happened there? He came in and he gave me a piece of paper, and it said kind of, "Who's I'm a bullshitter, but like when I look at you, you are the king or whatever. Or you are 10 times better than I am." I just looked at it and I said, "You sure?" Then I said a very bad word, and he left. But in fun,
Right,
like,
of course, yeah.
but in
that's
fun.
right.
And that was the last time I saw him. That was on that dreadful Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is tough. That was a tough nut to crack.
Right.
Very tough nut. Even today, I miss him because we were very close to his wife, and I had to call her, and I don't speak French. I could say "ça va" and blah blah blah, but I don't speak it, and I had to call her from the hospital and tell her that Bob is dead. Yeah, but luckily then we found a French doctor who could speak French, because I couldn't get a hold of her. She was in Las Vegas, so that was a tough time. Yeah. But that's in life also. Same with Hollywood. I'm laying in a hotel room in Columbus, Ohio, and all of a sudden, who called? Sarl or Ken House, because he was at that time with the Chevrolet team. And he called and he said, "Have you seen the news?" I said, "What news?" Because I don't watch TV. He said, then a plane went down and it looks on the collar from the tail, it could be Al's car. Poof, next one. Overnight, we said bye, and that was the last time, maybe a couple of hours before. Yep, because what we would do, actually, that's how faith is. What we would do is, we would leave always on Friday afternoon, fly to Warrington, over the East Coast races, have dinner with the family, sleep in his house, and then on Sunday morning, we'll get up early, fly back to the racetrack, and that day he had a meeting with some sponsors or whatever, because we wanted to build the 962. We saw the end of it, and he wanted to build an open sports car with the Indy engine, converted Indy engine, and that would have been a rocket. I can tell you that right now. And he had it with England, everything, so that's why I didn't fly with him. So that's what, sometimes life, you cannot predict it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and in that case, it worked for me.
Right.
When you go through incidents like those, does that change how you deal with drivers now, in the sense that maybe there's more of a gap or more of a distance?
It's, let's say, because you have to remember too the age.
Sure.
They respect me, they do that, but do I have a lot of things in common with a 25-year-old or 23-year-old?
Right.
No,
Right.
no, and that would be imposing on their freedom or
Right.
whatever. No, I don't do that.
Right.
Go out for dinner is fine, and we joke. I had a phone call today from Lucas Luhr, so we are in contact. But Lucas is a different generation.
Right.
But the new ones, no, I leave them alone. So that makes no sense.
Did Al Holbert or Bob Aiken ever get out of the car and bitch that it was unfair that they had to race with pros?
No,
Weird.
no.
Yeah.
Weird.
They raced a pro
So
Yeah.
with today's motorsports
against
world,
whom?
It's a driver rankings question. Like it's such
That
a
is another joke.
Yeah.
But that's beside the point.
Yeah.
No, you have to remember, Al was as good as any professional driver
Right.
at that time.
Right.
Bob was close to it, but he was not an Al Holbert or Bob Wollek or Hans Stuck or
Yeah.
whatever, and he knew that. But with the 962 days when we had the races, you could compensate for that. Like it's the same like today. You still can do it.
Yeah.
You get a little bit slower guy. You cannot be too slow, then it doesn't work.
Sure.
But no, never.
Yeah.
And it's a good story, Bruce Levin.
Yep.
So what we did all the, that's another good thing, 962 engines, 4.9 years, 50 wins. Okay?
Incredible.
Did all the engines and
Yeah.
all of them. And Levin, Bruce Levin, rest in peace. So when I went to him, not all the time, but when I went to him, he said, "You and your modifications." He said, "I don't need them." It's okay. If you don't need them, you don't need them. I hire a driver, a professional and the fast ones, and he is faster than your modification. It cost me less. That was Bruce Levin.
Yeah.
Because we argued always nicely, but well, of course he bought it then in the final analysis, but that was his favorite thing.
Yeah.
right.
You and your modifications.
Right. Right. Mad scientist. With the DPI thing coming on, do you see Porsche wanting to participate in that down the road?
If the ACO
Yeah, sure.
tomorrow would decide that they're going to let DPIs run,
Yeah.
I think that within a reasonable time we would have a car.
Yeah.
But right now, it's just to have a car for the United States
Mhm.
is difficult to justify. But you have to look at it mid-range. Mid-range, if you want to win in the United States, you need a DPI
Yeah.
because a GTLM car gets you first in class,
Yeah, right.
but not an overall win.
Mhm.
So, yeah, does Porsche come? I think within time, reasonable time, yes.
Yeah.
Like anybody in any other
Right.
manufacturer. And Jim was absolutely right in sticking to the simple thing. Because look at the LMP1. I mean, it's all nice and dandy, respect to the people,
Yeah.
but the money, what it costs to run these cars, how many people they think there would be there?
Yeah. Right. Right.
Was there ever a program that you were disappointed in?
A program, actually, what I was disappointed in was a little bit the Indy program.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because the first car from Singer,
And for
Robert
the-
Singer, did the first Porsche car, pure Porsche car. But number one, the Porsche guys, it didn't run well because it was not, it was his first car, but he's a smart person, and he never really had a chance to modify the existing one and come up with an improved version. They went immediately to March, and from then on, the car never really came to its potential. Then we had engine problems because the guys didn't understand banking. Because with the on-guising it was a flat 6, it was a different thing, but it was a V8. So we blew up a lot of engines until Dr. Esch came to the idea, or had the idea, we're going to modify the dyno. Remember, that is a long time ago. Modify the dyno so that you can swing the engine.
Oh,
And
right.
the moment they did that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
then they modified it, and that engine was actually very good. That would have been the base for our 89 or 90 Group C car, also IMSA car. It was very, very good. But then they made the mistake that March built a car where the turbocharger was behind the driver's head. So the idea of weight distribution was correct. The only thing what they forgot, couldn't build the car stiff enough. So the car, and in IndyCar, you know yourself, if you move 1 millimeter or forget it. So yeah, we never made anything, and then they canceled that program. Yes, that I was disappointed in.
If I'm a 17-year-old driver
Mm-hmm.
aspiring to sort of make a career, and obviously being a factory driver is very appealing, what's the stupidest thing I can do?
Come on this podcast.
to try to
Stupidest thing
impress
what you can do is be over cocky, high nose. You think you know it all, because in today's world there are so many young, good drivers out there. So to make it to the top, you need exceptional talent, and so. What I would say another big mistake would be not flexible and are unwilling to learn. And are unwilling to learn in a driving ability, in communication ability, in everything what is today talking on TV, talking good sentences and not blah blah, So that's what I would give. So don't make these mistakes neglecting them, and just think because you drive fast. There are other people who drive fast, but they fit the overall picture. Come back to Patrick Long. I'm sure there are other people who are as fast as he is, or even maybe a little bit faster. But if I look at the total picture, I would pick Patrick immediately. So, learn, listen.
Hey, I'm trying. I gave you a good handshake, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he told you.
Yeah, we talked about it.
So now we have to stop. 1 second, I have to get a bottle.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah,
do your
do
thing.
things.
Absolutely. Yeah, take your time.
It's okay so far?
That was
Oh,
great.
perfect.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, I was
Trying
going
to
to ask you,
cleanse.
what's the drink of choice for Alwin Springer if he's back here, the sun's going down, enjoying
Cabernet.
Cabernet? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Cabernet, and once in a while a Scotch whiskey.
Okay.
Okay.
So Sean doesn't drink at all, except
Good.
Like
you
at
can
all.
come back.
it's a cheap date.
Yeah.
The one time he's drank in the last 20 years
Yeah.
or whatever
Was
was with Mario Andretti the other day, and we had some Andretti wine. Yeah.
That's actually, I'm telling you, very, very good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Pruitt
Yeah.
is good wine. That's another one.
Yeah.
Good guy.
so Andretti and Pruitt are like the two best racing wineries you can think
I'm
of.
telling you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good wine. Yeah.
Yeah. So Andretti and Pruitt are like the two best racing wineries you can think
I'm
of.
telling you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good wine. Yeah.
Yeah. So Andretti and Pruitt are like the two best racing wineries you can think
I'm
of.
telling you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good wine. Yeah.
Yeah. And we heard you're a big cigar guy. Is that a
And
function?
I enjoy my cigar. It's a good story too. So in the morning, the phone calls would start, and when I got into Porsche Motorsport, I was already pissed. And I told them, I said, guys, do me a favor. Do not talk to me for the next hour or half an hour. Let me calm down.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're going to get it, and it's not your fault. Other time, I come home. Somebody miffed me off.
Right.
So I opened up the door and I told her, I said, Yolande, don't talk to me. So I came in out here, got my cigar, got my glass of wine.
Right.
Takes about 40 minutes, calmed down. Zzz,
Yeah.
Then I came in.
Yeah.
So I smoke maybe once a week. But at the racetrack, oh yeah, we had a cigar again. I have my group. It's Mark Raffhoff
Yeah. Yeah.
and Bo Barfield.
I knew it.
Yes,
Yep.
that's
So
what I
that's the
figured.
three of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
You know, we
Nice.
always find each other.
Yeah.
And on Thursday, Gary Nelson,
Oh,
from
cool. Yeah.
he joined us. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
so the four of us.
But
we
it-
smoke our cigar, blah blah bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause-
Yeah, but that's what life is all about,
Sure.
also.
So if it's sort of regular business hours and I see you with a cigar, that's a sign to leave you alone.
Yeah,
It means you're having a bad
What
day.
I still do here is, but I like to have a cigar, but it has to be in a relaxed atmosphere. I don't smoke a cigar because, like a cigarette smoker, who has to smoke.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes when I go to Germany, I don't smoke for 4 weeks. So it isn't like, luckily, I don't have that as a how you say, and I don't inhale or whatever. But I enjoy it. So, and then I take my magazines here and I read my magazines. And they, of course, they pile up.
Right.
Because sometimes I don't feel like reading. I tell you that because it's in a way same. Because if you read one of the other one, what is he going to write?
Yeah.
So these are all motorsport magazines.
Yeah, motorsport.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah,
reading-
no. I read. I'm very much involved in the German politics,
Okay.
American politics also.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, that interests me because since 2005, I have dual citizen, so
Oh,
I'm
right.
American and German.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes. So good thing is they cannot throw me out anymore. Look at the bright side.
Right. Just worked out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like in Germany, like the election that just happened in Germany, do you still vote? And
Now, in order to vote for Germany, I could do it, but then I had to go to the embassy and get.
Oh,
No,
right,
I
okay.
don't. I don't vote.
Okay.
No. But here, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. Makes sense.
Definitely.
Do you do your own yard work? Oh,
You want to hear the story?
yes, I do.
You can leave it or not. So we buy the house. The whole thing is grass. So I told her, I said, get a lawnmower.
Right.
So I took the lawnmower, went one outside lap, and I said, wait a minute. That is slave, because at that time we would Dieter and I, we would leave on Friday night, go to the racetrack, red eye special,
Yep.
and on Sunday night, red eye special, Monday morning back to work.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about in the couple of weekends when I'm home, slave off my back. I said no. I said get another lawnmower, the one what I don't have to push.
Okay.
Because I saw it on the not internet but on TV. So then she got one new one. So I had one, you handle her and it pulls itself. Again, maybe 2 laps. I came in and I said, you know what, kid? Because at that time we really didn't have any money.
Right.
We just had barely that house. So I said, do me a favor. No more steaks. Get a gardener. And that was in 76, so you know how long
Yeah.
ago that is. No.
Okay,
That is,
fair enough.
Backyard, that is not my forte.
So when it comes to like the what we call the honeydew list, where you have the
Honeydew list is a very simple one.
okay.
When she tells me, you have to do that. If it is not an emergency, you know what I say? Write it down. And when I feel like it, I will do it. And I'll tell
Okay.
you what it is if I feel like it, I do stuff in, let's say, 10 minutes. If I don't feel like it, hours, so I don't even do it. So
Okay.
that's, kid?
What?
How many times when you tell me, okay, do that, do something or do something? When do I do it?
When you feel like it. But then, when he feels like it, he attacks a lot of stuff. If not, there is no way on earth you can make him do it.
So like if there's something wrong with like the toilet or something, at what point do you just call the plumber versus?
Oh, I've done it.
Come on.
Oh, you do it yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Great. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Excuse me. I'm
And
sorry.
it stinks.
Everybody was saying, are you going to get a honeydew list? And I said, it's not worse for me writing it because he's not going to do it.
That's
I
fair.
think it's the same. We know him. How long have we met in January 66 and we got married in 71, so we are old timers.
How'd you guys meet?
You want to say? Go ahead.
Nah, your turn.
And,
Can you hear that?
If you want to put that on, we need to move the microphone.
I was in Toronto, German Carnival in 1966.
What is a
Whoa.
German carnival? Like an Oktoberfest?
Oh, something like that.
Okay.
Like a proper
Lots of beer.
circus or? Like-
No.
Okay.
No, it was like a dance.
Oh,
It was
okay.
a big party.
I gotcha.
And they call it German Carnival. So.
I
It's
see.
like a theme.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
was with his buddy, I was with my friend and my cousin, and we were like 22 of us.
Yeah.
And he asked me to dance. We couldn't talk to each other. He couldn't speak English. I couldn't speak German. He couldn't speak French. So the little English that we knew with each other was,
Tell them where you come from.
I come from Morocco, Casablanca.
wow.
Yeah,
So-
see,
okay.
we always assumed you
no.
were German. Yeah,
My
yeah.
my native language is French.
No kidding.
So
okay.
I arrived in October. He arrived in October '65 in Toronto.
Okay.
So it was January. English was very little.
Right.
So we danced for 3 hours.
Was he a good dancer?
He was a good dancer.
say
Is
3
he
hours.
still a good dancer?
No. No. So
What car do you drive?
Exactly. Yeah.
so we danced and that was it. And we started dating on and off, and then he has all his friends, they were German, so we would go to friends' house or anything
Right.
like that. They start talking English, and after half an hour they all go to German, so I'll grab my purse, I'll call a taxi, and I'll leave.
She'd call a cab.
Yeah.
Okay.
And your lot is gone, because I was tired of hearing German. I was sitting there
Sure,
like a dummy. And I did that many times, even once in Canada, in Montreal.
Right.
There was the Olympic.
World exhibition.
Yeah.
Ah.
Okay.
He got mad. I got mad at him, and we got mad quite a bit. And we had. So I got mad at him. I just took off, went back to the hotel, and the buddies that we were with, Yolande went to the hotel. Leave her alone.
That's just part of it. So I don't know enough about Moroccan women, but in TV, the Hispanic women are always screaming in Spanish whenever they're mad. You know, that's kind of like the stereotype. Does that happen?
No screaming. No, I don't scream.
Well, do you divert back to your native tongue,
to French?
speaking French, to just like, yeah, he's nodding right
Oh,
away.
yeah.
Yeah.
So is he.
Oh, so he goes right to German.
Logo.
But it's good because then you don't know what the other said. Like, do
Yeah.
you speak any French, Alvin?
No, he said earlier.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
I do speak German, but he
Right.
doesn't.
He's pretty good in German. Yeah, I have to say that. Yeah, so no, it's a good combination.
It works.
Did he give you a good handshake when you met him?
More than a handshake, he grabbed me.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
That's aggressive.
He didn't want to let me go. I said, nice looking, love to dance. What else can you ask? And that was the first and last time that pretty much we dance.
He's like, that's it, we're done.
One and done.
Yeah.
For our wedding, we had like 21 people for the wedding.
Okay.
And
Okay.
everybody said, Alvin, you have to dance. No. Alvin, you have to dance. We cannot dance till you do the first dance. So he grabbed me, bam, bam. Okay, now you guys can dance. And he went and he sat down.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know, see, that is
One
This is
thing
your
is
game.
for sure, he's one of a kind.
when somebody tells me it cannot be done or you can't do it.
Immediately the other way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, did he have any nicknames, or does he now?
No?
Me? In Canada, they called me Jumper. You know, Springer.
Yeah.
Springer
Ah,
is
sure.
English.
That makes sense.
Sure.
Jumper.
But otherwise. But when I met him, he had nothing to do with racing.
Right, that's what he was saying.
Nothing.
Much more relaxed at the time.
Did either of the kids have an active interest in motorsport at all?
No.
Yeah.
My daughter had a little bit. My son, no, never. He worked for Stand 21 for a year, but he didn't
Wasn't
like
his
it. So, in a way, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad, but because it is, you know, when you want to dedicate yourself to racing, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
And without Yolande, I tell you, maybe I would be where I'm today, maybe. But I certainly didn't have a family.
Yeah.
Because my kids were growing up, I didn't see them.
Yeah.
I didn't see my kids. We didn't go a lot to the soccer field or whatever, because why? I was tired.
Yeah.
I was tired. I always said I have to recharge my batteries somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's it's a tough one. You cannot deny it, but you know, I look at it, and what I always said is, look, I spent my time not in dance halls or in gambling halls or whatever. I worked my ass off. So at least we have something. And in today's when my daughter got, I forgot how old she was, 20 or what, and she blamed me. You know, you were never at my things, and you were never here, and you were never here, and blah blah. And in my house, I said, excuse me. I said, what do you mean my house? I said, that's my house. If I don't like you anymore, you can go somewhere else. The only thing what I would give you a tent in the garden, right there on the grass. I said, without any floor in it, and right on a sprinkler. And if you're not really nice, I switch to sprinkler on in the nighttime. He said, yeah, look at it. What?
Right.
But never had an argument afterwards.
Right.
Nice. So
Yeah, sometimes you have to, you know, you have to be a little bit harsh
Yeah.
in order to get the truth across.
Yeah.
Yeah, do.
Well, you think? I mean, you probably have to deal with a lot more Americans now than ever in motorsports. In your form of
Yeah,
motorsports,
yeah,
you know,
of course.
'cause there's so much of this. It has to be fair. It has to be easy. No one can be mean. Everybody has to be nice. And you being the old school German guy you are, direct and to the point. Do you find yourself changing at all? Like, do you find yourself go? Like,
Me?
I gotta be nice
No.
now. No, not at all. Just,
No,
yeah,
absolutely not.
yeah,
I hate political correctiveness.
yeah.
Never adopted it, and I tell everybody who want to talk to me, stop the bullshit.
Yeah.
Talk to me as a normal human being.
Right.
Believe me, and if you hurt my feeling, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
No. I think that is a stupidity. Whoever that movement who started that is, what are they achieving?
Right.
Because exactly what you said, you know, when somebody said, we finished a strong second. Nice. Name me the first loser.
Right.
Yeah.
Second place.
Yeah.
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 So, everybody cannot win, and the kids have to be, you know, we give him a trophy, and we give him that, and we give him the feeling. Listen, what is life all about? Life is brutal.
Yeah.
Life is the best one wins. Competition. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
And I personally, you know, like, I'm a strong believer in competition. Because brings me to a point. Why don't I have a contract? I'll tell you exactly what I told the guy. I said, I don't want to have a contract. He said, why? Everybody wants a contract. I said, not me. I lived my whole life on performance.
Yeah.
When my performance isn't there anymore, thank you very much. And at the same token, if you leave, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why I don't want to have one. He looked at me, he said, never heard that in my life, but accepted.
Yeah.
Handshake. Performance in life. Why are you guys sitting here? You have an idea, you follow it through, and you do it correctly. That is what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what I like. And if I see somebody, you know, struggling, and I can help him, I help him with my deepest things, advice, blah, blah, whatever I can give him. But if I see somebody, you know, my life is tough, and what is tough?
Yeah. You want to ride with us up to California?
Yeah.
We talk about this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
No, that's to do. You get my, in a nutshell, you get my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of want to switch back to a racing thing, a car, and I don't know if you had anything to do with this project, but the LMP 2000 car, the open top car, what was the story there? Because I remember seeing like leaked photos of it on the internet. This is when the internet was still new. But basically, if you're not sure about the car and you're listening, it was this LMP prototype open top car that was rumored to be coming, and you hear all these little whispers about it, and then a couple of spy photos showed up online, and it was a really cool looking open top WSC style car, and the thought was that they're going to take on Audi, and they're going to go and they're going to do all this great stuff, and then it just kind of went away.
No.
Yeah.
Everything what you said is correct so far. So what happened is Wiedeking, Dr. Wiedeking, do you know him?
No.
No, you don't know him in person, but you know of him?
Yes.
He didn't like racing.
Oh.
Didn't like it. Tolerated it,
Mhm.
but didn't like it. And he said very clearly, you know, like the Weissach guys built the car. The car's in a museum, but
Yeah.
in the basement of the museum, not what you can see.
Right.
And it was an open cockpit sports car. Very nicely built, nice engine in it, you know. Actually, the engine was based from our proposed Formula One thing, so we built it. See, Porsche does something, but they never publish it, or, you know,
Right.
it's not like we do something, but we have it. And he cut the program. They did 2 tests in Weissach on a racetrack. Got it.
Yeah.
Put the cover over it. Nobody was supposed to see it. And nobody saw it.
Yeah.
The only time I saw when I went into the basement on the Indy cars, because I had to give an evaluation on the Indy cars, and then I saw what Porsche has. Unbelievable. The cars you don't see. So, yeah, no, that was a purely Wiedeking decision.
So in that basement, is there other cars that we've never heard of that are down there that would have been game changers?
Not race cars.
Okay, sure.
But street cars, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same like in 94 was that's a good story. So 94, our 962s died.
Yeah.
And Tony Dow with the Jaguars, that program died. And we were sitting in Sears Point in the bar in San Rafael. We were talking about it because we always got along. I said, hey, what are you doing? I said, for us, sports car racing, we don't have anything. So I'm debating smoking a cigar.
Go for it. Do it. Do it.
Debate is over now. Do your thing.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Do you want to smoke?
Yeah, I'll smoke a cigar with you.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
And
Whoa, wow, really?
And you smoke it?
I've smoked cigars. He hasn't.
I'll do it, but I've never done it.
Yeah.
I'll give him a small one then.
Yeah.
So now that everybody's huffing and puffing, let's see how long you're going to do it.
Oh, yeah, we'll see how long I can last. So this is actually my very first cigar.
Sean Heckman's smoking cigars with Alwin Springer.
Yeah,
so
here, can we
we
do
have
it?
to get a photo.
Can we do a
of
photo
this.
together?
Yeah, because this is adorable.
All right,
So
that's real.
between Mario Andretti and Alwin Springer, I think we got you covered.
Yeah, this is my...
if only we had known this was the deal when we were hanging out with Randy Lanier, we could have totally got you set up.
Just wait until we see Mayfield.
Okay, so let's go down this direction. You've been around Porsches, for so long. You can probably hear when someone's up to no good.
Yeah, in today's, still, yeah, but it has to be. I cannot say, I'm listening to an engine and I can tell you you're doing something wrong. In the good old days, I could tell you that, especially on the V8s. You remember that your camshafts, ne?
Yeah.
Overlap.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing what I watched for.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of not homologated, but it was kind of written what you allowed. So it was Larry Schumacher. Remember Larry Schumacher?
Yeah.
We raced with him against in the World Challenge a long day. He had a Pontiac or what.
Yeah.
He came up. I said, Larry. Yeah, I can, but it's not in today because they have a high sound. It's more noisy than especially the R's. The ISRs, forget it. But in the ISR, it's a factory class.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That is kind of self-contained.
Yeah. So what's the greatest cheat you've ever seen? Because my dad worked with JLP Racing, and they would have like a hidden fuel cell in JLP3 or something.
From what we ever did?
Back in the day, like, or not necessarily you, but what you've seen, like.
I tell you honestly, I really didn't pay a lot of attention. The only thing and that wasn't the biggest cheat, was when we started out in the 90s and we started from ground zero. Mm-hmm. And we were running in the supercar series.
Yeah, Bridgestone supercar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we were running there with a 911 normal street car.
Yeah.
With Stuck and Hurley.
Yeah.
Hurley and Walter Röhrl. And we ran against the Lotus with Jack Ainsley.
My dad worked on the Lotus.
I know, but that's tell me. I know your dad. So, and George Silverman, you remember him?
Mm-hmm.
So he was at that time the technical guy. And I knew they were cheating. And I said, Ainsley, stop it.
Yeah.
Be nice. Let's have a race. We don't want to dominate, but quit that bull. No, we're not doing anything. And, and Ainsley said, not the smallest guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I said, I'm going to get you. So what I did is I went to our EPA guy at that time, and I said, listen, there must be some kind of a documentation about the turbocharger. I said, sure. Go in California, appointment, you go to the EPA, and they have every book, already at that time in the early 90s, any detail of the car they have in there. So I went there.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I took the measurements, copies from the turbocharger.
From the EPA.
From the turbine, from the compressor, from
the whole
everything.
thing. Right.
I watched it. Then I went the next race. I went to Ainsley. I said, Ainsley, I'm going to get you. So I give you a last chance. And he didn't do it. Then I went to Silverman, and he wanted to kind of blow it away.
Yeah.
I said, Silverman, kiss my ass. That one blows up. So either you do something or you don't. And then he took the turbochargers off, and of course they were totally something else.
Yeah.
And I said, hey guys, that's what's supposed to be the Lotus.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even with Jack today, we're still good friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Everybody loves Jack.
But so that was
Yeah.
this not the biggest sheet, but that's how I was.
Yeah.
That's how I got him.
Yeah. Went above and beyond.
Yeah,
Went
that's,
to the EPA.
That's knowing the politics. I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
The best one was John Paul.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that story?
Which
So John Paul, we did engines for John Paul.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then for whatever, like an engine blew up.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to pay you. I said, hey, because we knew a mechanic left the oil line loose.
Uh-huh.
Because the mechanic told us that.
Yeah.
And I forgot his name. Worked for him, but I forgot it. So he came and he said, I made a mistake. And he didn't want to pay. And I said, hey, you have to. So we went to court. And that son of a bitch, that was after he tried to kill that guy.
Undercover guy. Right?
After that.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah.
Think about it. He came for $5,000, $6,000 in front of the court. And the judge said, then the guy, he came in our favor and told the guy that he left the oil line loose.
Yeah.
So the judge said, okay, pay.
Yeah.
We never paid. So then I was waiting. And I said, my friend, come to California. So I went to a lawyer. We got an injunction.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Injunction. So he came to California. I didn't go to Sears Point. So sheriffs came. You ever heard the story?
No.
Sheriff came, nicely got his car, with change, pulled it up, and then, if I take a check, I said, check, cash.
Yeah.
And then he had to run around in the pit lane to get cash.
Yeah.
I got my money.
And you wonder
Racing
why
used to be so cool.
It was always.
And you wonder why people are
But I
intimidated.
didn't take what I told you before. I had for an answer.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, because he had literally tried to shoot and kill an undercover DEA agent.
Yeah.
And then you months later are like, hey, I need you.
I
I need that $5,000.
Yeah.
And I said, forget the money. I want you alive.
You're right. You're like, forget principle.
No, it's
yeah.
$5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was he was counting on.
Yeah.
Not with me.
Right, yeah,
But there's
exactly.
a lot of other people.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I don't give a shit. So
Yeah.
right is right.
Okay. Nice.
Well, I want you on my side, that's for sure.
Mm.
How do you, I think about, the client base that I've got that race horses. How do you like the client side of the business? Because, effectively, I mean, just thinking about the active guys now, you've got a company like GMG who's there to sell cars to rented seats, and they're doing tuning on the side. But then you've also got teams like Black Swan, which is privately funded, or old teams like Magnus, who are known for being really crazy and fun with their stuff, or TRG.
Yeah, he has fun with it too.
Yeah. But how do you enjoy the customer side of it with this variety of personalities?
Oh, tell me, if the people are realistically to a certain degree, and they don't lie, and you can talk to them and you can make some fun with them. I'm coming back that you have to make some jokes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I get along actually with all of them. I cannot tell you one foot to the other one.
Yeah.
And if they change the product, hey, we're in a free market.
Yeah.
If they want to change, they change. But I never lose contact with them. Like when Dyson, dear friend of mine.
Mhm.
Also, and I always repeat that they're a dear friend of mine. So even when we lost, we always kept in touch. He got different products, but he went to a different thing because we didn't have anything after the LMP2.
Right. Yeah. Right.
There was nothing. He would
Yeah.
have stayed with us.
Sure.
And I'm sure, even with Magnus, if we had the right product,
Yeah.
they would have stayed.
Yeah.
So therefore, for me, and if they change, then what changes? It doesn't change the personality. If somebody tries to screws me, or a Porsche, that's a different story.
Okay.
That is different.
Yeah.
And that's what Tony Dow did. And I, with Tony Dow, unfortunately, we broke the thing. Oh, we never talked about 94.
You were going to tell us. I kind of know where you were going with it. I would like to hear that.
I would like to hear this, yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of people don't realize that even now what you're going to tell us.
What? So we'll got on again, Sears Point. We're sitting in a bar, and I said, hey, you have a car, but you have no engine anymore because they couldn't pay the whatever they had in there, Cosworth or whatever. I don't know what they had in there, but they didn't have engines.
Yeah.
I said, we have engines, but we don't have a car anymore. So why don't we think about what we can do? That's how it started.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is I called Germany and I said, listen, that's the proposition what I have. They have a car, they have that. And one to the other, Valparaiso. So the Porsche guys came over, installed the engine. The car was excellent.
Yeah.
So and then came Daytona. No, then first came the test. And we had Andretti's, Danny Sullivan, Anso. Oh, we had good people in the car.
Yeah.
I think Polak was there. No, you can look it up.
Yeah.
But very, very good crew. So then we went to Daytona. And then, first of all, we had like a restrictor change, but I mean not by tenths or whatever.
Yeah.
I think 2 millimeters or what, and of course our turbos didn't fit anymore. And then on top of it, they gave us like 50 or 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And then Wiedeking
Said no.
pulled the plug.
Yeah.
Before Daytona. That was the end of the line.
Yeah.
So then the cars went into museum because we bought the cars, they were our cars.
Mhm.
And then you smart ass. Oh yeah, we have cars, Daytona, Le Mans and blah blah blah. And Singer said, well, in Le Mans the cars are way too difficult to change suspension on it. And I asked him, I said, no, but I said, why do you want to change suspension? The car was laid out for 20,000 pounds of downforce, and we're running maybe with 8. So what should be better on the suspension?
Yeah.
So then of course we used Arch to Wins.
Yeah.
That kind of, like, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's live in the big city.
Yeah. Because
So nobody really knows about that. So that
Yeah.
would be good if you can.
Yeah, because that car was the TWR Jag.
Car, yeah,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
it was a perfect car.
And then you guys basically made it a WSC style chassis, right?
Mhm.
And took it to Le Mans,
Yeah,
and it won with
2 times.
2 times, and then
And then it went
But
into
it's in the museum
Joost Museum.
yeah, and people don't realize it because it's liveried up as a Porsche and the whole 9 yards, that it had a previous generation as a completely other manufacturer's race car.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you guys said, okay, we'll take that, put them together.
Absolutely.
That's pretty, it's a pretty neat
So
story.
then I did that.
That's the second time you mentioned Wiedeking, and I find that interesting because in motorsport today, I don't care if it's from a manufacturer level or a sponsorship level, it only takes one regime change for the entire program to go away
Absolutely.
in a day. But I find that interesting that even at Porsche, which is a company rich with racing heritage, that can still be a legitimate concern.
Yeah, but it all depends like anything else, We're sitting here right now, and next one is sitting in the seat. He said, I hate cigars.
Right.
So all this, like Wiedeking, he smoked a lot. And we had the best Cubans and humidors, that big everywhere in the board member casino, it's a little room. So they're still there. So when I go to the celebration, so we have dinner, we have lunch with the new guy, and was usually with Scott Atherton, Daniel, now the new guy. So 4 guys.
Okay.
And then I see the girl, and I know the girl who serves us. And I said, hey kid, when we have the party, can I get a cigar? So, and then every year, I'm the only guy, who has a cigar. So they always ask me, did you bring them? I said, not exactly. But I want to come back to the beginning of ANDIAL.
Okay.
See, we had a couple of guys when we opened up ANDIAL and we went to the racing side. We had a couple of guys who really helped us a lot, and that is something what people have to know too. Number 1 was Randolph Townsend. He became he had the 935, 917. Then he became senator in Nevada, and for 24 years or what, still good friends. Then was Howard Meister. Howard Meister doesn't mean anything to you, ne? But he financed actually the 81 car, and to a certain degree the 82 car, the Moby Dick car, where we won Daytona.
Yeah.
Preston Hen bought it. So, and the third one, who am I forgetting? Jim Busby. Jim Busby was actually our first customer,
Wow.
racing-wise, with an ISR.
Do you, it's sort of a generic question, but do you have a favorite car?
Me? No.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
962.
I'm not. Oh, you mean a race car?
Race car. Yeah, yeah.
962.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. 962. That was a car. What was good for the customer. It helped, of course, it helped us tremendously, and we did a lot of modifications what nobody else had.
Yeah.
And that was for us, for myself, from electronic side.
Yeah.
So
Modifications is an ANDIAL.
Yeah.
Did a lot of it.
yeah, that was ANDIAL. That was in the 80s.
Yeah.
962, clever. And Holbot. With Holbot, we made a deal, and from a personality standpoint, you don't remember Al, no?
No.
No.
I look older than I am.
Personality,
So.
I mean, he was there and I was here.
Right.
And yet, we got along very, very good, and we became friends. So I can say that with good conscience.
Right.
And what he said from the beginning, Alwin, I trust you. You do the engines, take care of it, end of the story. Never interfered.
Right.
Never.
Right.
When I said, okay, I'm going to do that, and do it.
Right.
So that was a very good, very close, and his death actually, that was devastating for me.
Yeah.
I have to say that. So let me say one thing. In the 80s, we went from injection pumps to electronics. And that is something where my computer knowledge, everything else, and the interest has always interested me. And like I said before, EEPROM's the brain of the ECU at that time. See, today it's easy. You go to a computer and you go percentage-wise. Hexadecimal system?
I'm aware. You're familiar.
Okay, so you had to, see, the EEPROM is programmed in hexadecimal. So you had to convert it into decimal. Then you had to say, okay, plus 3%. Then you had to figure it out again, get the number in hex. Then you had to program the EEPROM and send it. So, in Germany, there's, let's say, the Bible, where the EEPROM was decided, or it actually described where's the timing and where's the RPM and where's the that and where's that. And that is something, I got everything from Weiser, but that they wouldn't give me. It was just brand new, and that was like Fort Knox.
Right.
So that pissed me off. So, yeah, because see, what we wanted to do immediately from 2.8 liter to 3.2. Yeah, but you change the cams, you do that. But if you don't change the mixture and the timing, so what does it really do good? Yeah. That's what everybody else did. And I went to, it really bugged me. And I wasn't smart enough to do that completely. So I went up to Silicon Valley and I found a guy. It cost us $10,000 and it took him like, I don't know, 2 months or whatever. And I went up there and he had it on a big display. And he said, look, I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but let me show you the blocks. He said that is one block here, so it's either timing or it is because it always repeats itself.
Right.
But what RPM and where and what and here, I don't know that. So what I did is I went home, and now it becomes technically. So I had a unit from Bosch where I could see the values when I changed the throttle angle or the boost or the timing. So then I got myself a generator, like what the engine runs, like an input.
Yeah.
So I went with that thing on a bench, and it took me like 6 months. And what I did is I just went, like click, and I looked. Then I went on the EEPROM, and I said, okay, if I change, maybe that is the timing. So I just concentrated on timing. And that's how I broke that whole thing down. And then we were able with Holbot to change our program.
Yeah.
And everybody else used and Aiken and all these guys here, they changed the engine, but unfortunately,
Gone. Yeah.
And then with Garrett Air Research,
Right.
we had turbos made specifically for our application. With the display of the, how can I explain it to you? The efficiency grade, like you could be here or you could be here. And they made compressor wheels and things for us, exactly fitting that. So there is more to it than just, oh yeah, they were lucky or they were good. And that's what I wanted to explain, but I didn't get to the 962 days. So
Well, the nostalgia I hear for the 962 out of you is that it seems like that was sort of the technology point that sort of was perfectly coinciding with where you were in terms of what you wanted to learn.
It was the right time,
yeah.
the right movements, the right clientele, and the success. Because if you look how many times we won Daytona or what.
Yeah.
So
When you're working on that for 8 months or whatever
Yeah.
combined.
Yeah.
Were people around you that were working? I'm assuming this was happening here in California. In your
Or end
shop
up.
and
Yeah, it
everything,
was
and
mostly bench work.
right. Were anybody around you going, "Is this going to pay off?" Was there any sort of pressure?
No,
like,
my
"Are
two
you wasting your
partners,
time?"
my two partners,
They're-
never doubted that.
Yeah.
Never. They didn't know what I was doing, but there was never any doubts.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what are you doing or what? No.
Right.
If somebody would have said that, I would have exploded.
You knew
I would
that's
have
why
told him
they
in
did
plain
it.
English, f off.
It's like, let him do his thing. Let him do his thing.
Sure. So am I vocal? Yes, I am. Yes, certainly.
So our pass along question, we kind of started out with because it was relevant to our own curiosity with Jeremy's question about your retirement.
No. I have an official title.
Okay.
Oh, you do.
It's called a retired innocent bystander. And that's what I am.
Yeah.
I'm in the background. You don't see me that much in the foreground, but let's say that I'm very active in the background.
So on Monday, Tuesday?
Tuesday.
So next week we're going to be having dinner with Cole Pern, who is a NASCAR crew chief. I'm sure you've never heard of him.
No.
He works.
Sorry about that.
No, no.
I know
that's
you
fine,
want to
yeah.
have a quote or what, but I don't know him.
So any question you could ask a current NASCAR crew chief who is fighting for the championship. They just won the last race with his team. He's Martin Truex Jr.'s crew chief. Any question you could think to ask.
I can tell him that. If he's a good crew chief, then he always, let's say, we take that little thing here, and we look at it and we say, look, come on, that's the rules. So you can on a safe side, you can go in the middle, or you move always on the edge. It's between illegal and legal.
Right.
And a good crew chief, or whatever, I expect him to walk here.
Of course.
So, and once in a while, you go a little bit over it, and if you get caught, that's your problem. That's what happened in NASCAR, so keep on doing it.
So let's talk about just you get to travel for a living, and you're from Germany originally. You spent time in Canada. I for my own personal interest, I always wonder what's your favorite track to go to, not for the race.
Elkhart Lake.
See, when she mentioned Elkhart earlier, I was
Elkhart
like, I wonder if
Lake.
it's just because it's beautiful.
Elkhart Lake
Yeah.
is my favorite.
Yeah,
Everything fits.
it's perfect.
Besides the winter time.
And the mosquitoes.
Yeah, and the mosquitoes.
Yeah.
So very
Okay, so you've gotten to work with some of the greatest race car drivers in sports car racing history. Factory guys like Patrick Long and Jörg Bergmeister and on, Derek Bell. Is there anybody that you think could have been a great factory driver that just didn't get the chance?
Yeah, Gunselman.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because neighbors, they love each other. So, perfect. Mischance.
Is there somebody and I wouldn't know their name most likely anyway, is there somebody in the Porsche organization you see as like a predecessor to you, or that's going to come into?
That's a tough thing. And I tell you honestly, I already at Uwe's time, so in 2005, 2006, I said, Uwe, we have to look for somebody, because I cannot do it, or I will not do it forever. I haven't found somebody, and believe me, I look and I look and I look and I look and I look. But see, the criteria, what is utmost important is you have to speak German.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get along with the guys, you have to know the guys from Weiser.
Yeah.
And as an outsider, it's very difficult to get into that group, or to have the respect. And I use that word all the time.
Yeah, you do.
If you don't have it, forget it.
Sure.
So you had no idea what you were walking into today, or what we were
No
walking
idea.
into, I guess.
Well,
But
neither did we.
yeah. But clearly you're having a terrible time.
Yeah, can't you see it? You know
with-
what? Actually, it's
with-
3 o'clock. I'm like, $1. That's minimum an hour and a half more than I expected.
I'm sorry.
Likewise.
Like the legacy, if there is one that you want to leave behind, is there sort of a part about you wish people knew more of, or a legacy that you're hoping to leave?
A legacy is a very simple one. What I want to be remembered is to be a fair person. Success, number one, always in the focus, because that's what makes it in racing. And that's all. Remember that, like what we did, how we did it, or how I did it. But I didn't do it by myself. It's always what I hate with people. I.
Yeah.
You never see I. It's always us or we.
Right.
Because it is always a team. It's not only one person who does that.
Right.
That for me is very important. Success, united as a team. That's what I would like to see. continue that. When somebody comes to that thing, look in the mirror for a second and really ask yourself, how? Golf player is something else. Golf player is a golf player. That's only him, but not in racing.
Right.
You can have the best driver, you give him a lousy car, and the best driver all of a sudden becomes one of many.
I think we've taken more than enough time of yours. So
Okay, well, we make a nice picture later on, 3 of us.
yeah, that's actually part of the
have a
thing
thing
as
we
well.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you want to run it, you can. Cool. All right. Well, it's crap. You've given us almost 3 hours, and Dario Franchitti's been waiting in the car the whole time.
Yeah, we got
trying to
Dario
drive us out of here.
driving
us.
So,
Why didn't you bring him in?
nah, that's not his
What
job.
is it, a dog? You forgot Mario's advice? That poor sucker, bring some water.
He's joking.
I know, and I'm joking too. That's what I like, you gotta have some fun.
Yeah.
I think this is going to change a lot of people's. I mean, you need to at the next race, maybe throw a drink in someone's face or fire somebody, because people are going to realize that you're just a nice guy, and it
I'm
might
normal.
change your
I'm normal,
your
I'm normal.
your aura.
Well, let me tell you one thing, racing too. What I found very positive with all my racing years, it forms you. And in racing, see, when it comes to the point, especially when I was still on pit lane, you have to make a decision. How you gonna do it? What you make? You make that decision now.
Right.
Not let me think about that or let me
Split
discuss
seconds.
in a committee. What we do. You're on your own. Make the decision. Live it. So what it taught me in life, anything, when there's a situation, you are already by the time and it happened to us personally also. You make a quick decision and go for it. And by the time you do that, the other guys, they're still thinking, and you're already on the next train to the things, and you have it already resolved.
Right.
So that is what I personally really learned in racing and cherish it.
Well, thanks so much for your time, and Continental for picking up the sandwiches.
Boom. Let's go deal with Dario.
I'm finished.
All right, Alwin Springer. On a personal level, I couldn't have been happier that we got him and that he actually had a good time, which we were worried about. It's very rare to get a guy like that to talk, and for somebody who's been as influential in the sport as Alvin has, I'm so happy that his personality was able to come out. Hopefully you enjoyed it and got a glimpse into a guy that's normally pretty reclusive on things like this. So thanks, Alvin, for all the time. We'll go ahead and get out of here with another band that is new to us, but they approached us and we're happy to put them out there. It's called Shaman Jon, and you can find the music on their website. That's SHAMAN Jon, Jon, and then it's at shamanjonmusic.com. Here's a song called As Good As Your Yesterday. Enjoy.